Welcome to Broad Street Phanatics, episode number 17. And I am here with Cameron Bogdanoff, my co-host, and a special guest, Patrick. And Patrick is here to talk about this upcoming season for the Texas Longhorns, as well as other things college football related. And we are happy to have you, Patrick.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. So my first question is, what were your thoughts on the SEC situation of trying to add more teams?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation, one that's kind of come up suddenly in the news, but not suddenly behind closed doors. Texas, SEC, Oklahoma have kind of been doing this for months behind the scenes, and that should go to show you why it's happening so quickly. While you're seeing on Monday morning, both of the schools issuing a joint letter stating they're not going to be there. Now you have the SEC presidents who are meeting on Thursday. Oklahoma and Texas at this time have not applied for membership of the SEC, but that's expected likely before Thursday's meeting, where they'll hold a vote. If 11 schools vote yes, they will be extended an invitation into the SEC, and then we'll kind of see what this timeline looks like. Which I think it's a good move for Texas. It's a good move for Oklahoma, especially when you talk about the financial ramifications that are going to happen. But overall, it's been a crazy 72-hour period since really we caught wind of this story that happened. Well, really, it was since last Wednesday, so it's kind of been a whirlwind of everything that's going on. But I think it's good for those schools, but at the same time, you kind of look, how is this going to shift the balance of power within college football? Are we getting away from the model that is the NCAA? That's the big question that we're going to have with the SEC, essentially having all the major players, or at least a vast majority of them, in-house with the SEC conference.
Yeah, I find that really interesting. Now, there was some you could have debated last season that SEC was the best conference in football, and now that if this actually goes through with Texas and Oklahoma, there's no debate, I don't think, that Texas and Oklahoma will make SEC a no debate the best conference in football. My question is, do you think it's good for the SEC to get teams like Oklahoma and Texas in, or do you think it's going to hurt them?
No, I don't think it hurts them at all, actually, especially when you talk about their contract with the TV rights that's going to be ending for CBS after 2022. In 2023, they're going to ABC, ESPN, and those numbers that they're going to be paying them are upwards of $55 million. Adding in the most valuable school in the country in Texas, when you talk about the dollar amount they're worth, I believe Wall Street Journal had them listed at worth over $1 billion. They're the number one value, biggest brand out there. So I think it helps. It also helps see other schools within the SEC that they can get more money because they can demand more in those TV deals because they're adding them. Oklahoma is the number 7 most valuable school. If you looked at it with Oklahoma and Texas, they would have 7 of the top 10 most valuable college football teams within the SEC. And you're right, it's a no debate. Alabama right now, I mean, we all agree they're going to be number 1. I think Oklahoma is probably the number 2 team in the country right now. So you're looking at number 1 and number 2 already in-house. Georgia's right up there in the top 5. Texas could be knocking on the door in the near future, depending on how Steve Sarkisian works out with that offense, with that team. But, they're making moves, and I think ultimately the hiring of Sark and everything just kind of plays into them wanting to go to the SEC all along.
Yeah. Go ahead, Alex. Do you have a question?
Yeah. Just looking at the schedule, what are your thoughts on Georgia Clemson to open up the season on Saturday, September 4th?
Yeah, that's going to be a huge game. You talk about Clemson; they got a new quarterback. Talking about DJ Ululele, he's going to be great. I want to see how JT Daniels, Kirby Smart's new team looks this year. It seems like every year we talk about Georgia. We talk about them like, oh, they're going to be up there. They're going to be up there. And then for whatever reason, they fall. Last year, they fell to Florida. Florida was the team that represented the SEC East in the SEC championship game. So can Georgia put it all together this year? They've got the weapons. They've got the talent. You add in LSU transfer. Eric Gilbert's going to be their tight end / wide receiver hybrid. He's another weapon for JT Daniels. And then obviously we're going to see, did Clemson load up enough to make another run? Because essentially this could be a preview to the college football playoff semifinal, whether we're talking about in the Orange Bowl in Florida. Is it going to be, the Cotton Bowl in Dallas or Arlington, Texas at AT&T Stadium? This could be one of those matchups. So I think it's going to be it's a great way to kick off the college football season, regardless if you like the SEC, you like the ACC, you like Clemson, you like Georgia. This is going to be one of those games you're going to want to tune in to see, because that's a big time matchup of two top 5 programs.
And also, what do you think about the Miami-Alabama game that same day?
That's an interesting one, just because you have Miami, who has the veteran quarterback. How's he going to look after the injury that he suffered in the bowl game against, I believe it was Oklahoma State last year? How's he going to look in this game? Miami's going to be interesting after he tore the ACL. Is he going to be ready to go by September 4th? That's the interesting part. And then you have Bryce Young for Alabama. He's the new quarterback, so it's not a veteran. It's his first start. How is he going to look against that defense that Manny Diaz is going to deploy? They've gotten some transfers in on the Miami side. Charleston Rainbow leaves Oklahoma to go to Miami. Can he help out, Derek King, the quarterback there? That's going to be a good matchup and kind of a barometer to kind of see, because last year what we saw with Alabama, and we got to see if they're going to fix this up, their defense was susceptible last year. We saw it several times, especially against Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin, he was able to put points on the board. Obviously, his defense couldn't slow down Steve Sarkisian's offense. So the big question is, how does Bill O'Brien come in? How does he get that offense going with the new quarterback, with new weapons? So that's gonna be an interesting. It's one of those games that, if you would have put this game on the field last year, I wouldn't have been as intrigued. But with all the intangibles and all the storylines going around this game, that makes this game much more of a must-watch game because of everything involved.
Yeah. My question is, what are your expectations for Texas this year?
Well, the expectation level is I'm hoping that we're going to see them, Oklahoma, in the Big 12 championship. That's my hope. Now, the expectation level might be a little bit less. I think they might be the third best team in the conference. We'll see if they can get over the hump. They've had their issues with Iowa State in recent years. They've had their issues with TCU. Can Steve Sarkisian get over some of the humps that they've had in the previous seasons? New quarterback. We're not real sure if they're going with Casey Thompson, who we saw in the bowl game last year. He lit up the Colorado defense. Are they going to go with the younger quarterback in Hudson Card? I think he's the more accomplished as far as what he was able to do at the high school level. He's got the higher pedigree, hometown kid out of Austin, Lake Travis. So it's going to be interesting there. I think the big thing is, will they do something they should have done last year? And that's feed the young running back, Bijan Robinson. He was a guy, 8.9 yards per touch last year. That is insane for the amount of touches that he had. He should have had a lot more, but they wouldn't go with him. When they finally did, we saw what he could do. And with the way that Steve Sarkisian likes to use his running backs, especially if you look back last year with Najee Harris, the last 2 years, he used them a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I think a 9-3 season I could see for Texas as far as my expectation level. I don't know that they're at the double digit yet. They'll get tested right out of the gate, though, when they're playing Louisiana Lafayette, who was close to being one of those teams that could have snuck into the CFP if they could have gotten a couple more wins. They're a tough team, so they're going to get tested right out of the gate, and we'll find out how good this Texas Longhorns team, who we talk about each and every year, can they put it all together in 2021.
So moving out of the SEC conference, what are your expectations of the Big Ten conference? And who is your top team to break out, to have a breakout year this year?
If you're looking at the Big Ten, obviously it's going to start with Ohio State. I'm interested to see what McCord does at quarterback because they're like most of these other teams that you're seeing. You've kind of got to see what they have at quarterback. So they're another one. They lost Justin Fields to the NFL draft. How is that team going to look? So obviously it's going to be Ohio State. I'm interested to see if Penn State can put it together this year. That's a big one that I'm looking at. So you look at Penn State. Northwestern was another team that kind of it came up, and you thought that they might be able to challenge Ohio State. So those are some of the teams I would look at. As far as my breakout team this year, I mean, we kind of saw it last year. I think Indiana is a team that you really got to watch out for. They're a well-coached football team. They kind of remind me, while they do have Penix Jr., who's a really good quarterback, they kind of remind me of Iowa State in the Big 12 because not a whole lot of star power. It's all about the coaching, putting themselves in a good position. So if I was looking at a team and said breakout, I'm looking at Indiana. I think they could be a lot better this year, kind of similar to what they were last year. It'll just be interesting to see with a full season because, as we know, the Big Ten came late to the game, much like the Pac-12 did. Only got to play in a handful of games. So it'll be interesting to see how Indiana looks with a full slate of games to play in 2021.
Yeah, definitely. Indiana was a very well coached team last year, and since I'm a big Penn State football fan, it was hard to watch that game where I think they were on like the 5th-yard line, and they went for it on 4th down, and the quarterback like reached his hand over the goal line, and people thought that it shouldn't have been a touchdown, but it was.
Yeah, I mean that was a great play. I mean, it was one of the top plays on ESPN. Everybody saw it last year. Yeah, I remember the play very well, and yeah, he there was a lot of discussion about that, but to me, I think he did. It looked like he scored from my end, and obviously, that's what they went with. But yeah, that was a great play there for Indiana.
My question is, who do you see winning the college? Who do you see winning the championship this year?
Ah, man, see the question of that is so tough because there's a handful of teams that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Obviously, Clemson is one of the teams that I expect to be right up there. Alabama, you can't really count them out year in and year out. They just reload and go right back at it. So it's difficult to say. I think the team I'm going to talk about here. Now, I'm not saying that they will win it, but I think this is the best shot for them to win it is Oklahoma. And the reason I say that is Lincoln Riley is loaded up on offense. He's loaded up on defense. This is his best team. He's got an experienced quarterback this year in Spencer Rattler, a guy who's expected to win the Heisman. Alex Grinch defense is much improved. The big question with them is how does that secondary look? They got Woody Washington. They have Jeremiah Cradell. DJ Graham's a guy who's going to step up this year. Pat Fields. I mean, they have guys there. It's the question of how do they look. Incoming freshman Billy Bowman is expected to compete for that nickel role. So it's going to be interesting. They have one of the best pass rushing duos in the country when you talk about Nick Benito on the outside. And then you also have Isaiah Thomas. And let's not forget that they added Kennedy Brooks back to this team. He set out last year due to COVID. Eric Gray comes over. Marvin Mims was a standout. They've got guys all over this team, guys that were injured. They look healthy this year. So I would say keep your eye on Oklahoma, but ultimately I'm not going to go against Nick Saban until I see it actually happen on the field. So Alabama, if I was to make a pick for the national championship game right now, give me Alabama versus Oklahoma in the national championship.
Yeah, I feel that Oklahoma has a really good chance in Alabama. I could see that Oklahoma, Alabama in the championship game. I could also see Clemson possibly making the playoffs too with DJ.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how Oklahoma's offense does, and I'm excited to see how it plays out with your prediction, Patrick. And I think that that since like after a pandemic, and I just think that everything is ready to roll, and it's going to be a very deep season with a lot of great moments, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. With hopefully, like we said, we get a full season in this year. Most teams are going to be playing the full slate of games, 12 games plus conference championship games. So I'm hoping that we get to see a lot more college football than we got to see last year, with so many breaks because of COVID-19. But with the vaccinations and going back to the full slate, fans in the stands, I'm hoping for a lot more excitement from the college level. Not that last year wasn't exciting, but let's be honest. When fans are in the stands, the atmosphere is electric, and it just makes for a better all-around product when it comes to college football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, Cameron, you got anything else?
Yeah, I don't have anything else. Thank you again, Patrick, for joining us, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks.